Hey guys, so I would be remiss if I didn't do a video on Gnosticism and the Gnostic Gospels, as this is one of those kind of ongoing things that a lot of people who really haven't studied Gnosticism or really have any idea what it is keep bringing up. As always, this was all kind of started by Dan Brown, who ironically enough doesn't really seem to understand what Gnosticism is, and he actually kind of presents the exact opposite of what it is in his book. He claims the Gnostics thought Jesus wasn't a man, wasn't God, when in actuality the Gnostic Christians thought that Christ wasn't a man, that he was entirely divine. So he kind of doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, so this is very important, and this is, to me, kind of disproves Gnosticism from the Gospel of John. The high priest then questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. Jesus answered him, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple, where all the Jews come together, and I spoke nothing in secret. Why do you question me? Question those who have heard what I spoke to them. They know what I said." Okay, why is this important? Because Gnosticism literally means secret knowledge. And if you look at the Gnostic Gospels, almost all of them open with Jesus saying, "These are the secret teachings," or someone else saying, "These are the secret teachings," when he very clearly stated, "No, I spoke in public. Just go ask the people I talked to. I didn't hide anything." So Gnosticism. Gnosticism is kind of interesting. It's a 2nd century or later philosophical religious school that developed in the Eastern Mediterranean. It combined a lot of different religions: early Christianity, Buddhism, mystery religion, Zoroastrianism, and Neoplatonism, that formed kind of a unique belief system that borrowed ideas from all the various religions. I think it should be really important to note that there's no pre-Christian Gnostic text that has ever been found, and most of the Gnostic writings are substantially later than the New Testament. It is often thought that Christianity borrowed from Gnosticism, but it's more likely that it borrowed from Christianity, or was rather a parallel development. The Roman world was gradually moving in the direction of monotheism anyways. It's not like it was an unknown idea. I mean, Plato basically advocated it, Plutarch advocated it, Aristotle advocated it. It wasn't really a new idea. It was kind of gaining hold anyways. And Gnosticism is rather close to a lot of Platonic and Neoplatonic philosophies, so it's not really that unlikely. So just the point is, the New Testament canon, Old Roman symbol, existed prior to our oldest records of Gnosticism, or were largely settled by the time the earliest Gnostic works we recorded. I guess there's often the appeal to mystery that, the Gnostic texts were burned. Okay, but you have to prove that, and there isn't really any proof that they burned the Gnostic text. If you look at what the Church Fathers said about it, they generally speaking were very dismissive about the Gnostic texts. They didn't think they were that interesting. They just didn't talk about them very much. So there's a couple modern versions of Gnosticism, including Kabbalah, Freemasonry, aspects of Jung, a lot of kind of evangelical biblical prophecy is a lot like it. Scientology and a lot of aspects of Mormonism. Scientology and Freemasonry are in particular the most like them because of their secretive nature. So Gnostic theology, in contrast to what people think, teaches that the material world is evil and is created by the demiurge, or creator god, and that the spiritual world is good. The latter is timeless and perfect, while the former is corrupt and evil. So some early forms of Gnosticism maintained that the God of the Old Testament was actually the devil, and that Christ was the true God. It's generally speaking, they thought that the world was evil. A lot of sects thought childbirth was a bad idea, and practiced extreme asceticism because the flesh was irrelevant. Contrary to what Dan Brown and a lot of the people say, they didn't really enjoy life. If anything, they're extremely pessimistic compared to other religions, including Christianity. The ultimate goal in Gnosis is similar to nirvana or enlightenment in the Dharmatic religions. That is complete liberation from the material world. Their concept of it is reincarnation is sometimes present in Gnosticism. Depends on the Gnostic sect. Sometimes it's the end of the cycle of reincarnation. Other times it's just existing as a pure spirit, like in the works of Plato. So you achieve liberation through secret teachings and rituals, which are normally combined with a strict internal ranking system that one moves up by learning secret knowledge, performing certain rituals, or other initiation actions. This is seen in Freemasonry, where you move up from degree to degree to degree, and you learn secrets as you go. In Scientology, we have operating thean levels, and you learn more stuff as you move up. So the universe is viewed as being hierarchical in nature, with physical matter the furthest from God, and the goal of the human being to transcend the physical and achieve unity with God. So like I said, it's very much a combination of a lot of different ideas. Gnostic Christology is the main form of Gnostic Christianity. It posits that the doctrine according to which the phenomena of Christ, his historical and bodily existence, and thus above all the human form of Jesus, was altogether mere semblance without any true reality. Or in other words, it's the belief that Jesus only seemed to be human, and that his human form was an illusion, and that he was merely a spiritual being who was never born. In Valentinianism, Jesus is one God among many. In the fully developed Ptolemaic system, I believe it comes from Alexandria. That's where you get a lot of the syncretic stuff. We find a kindred conception, but with a slight difference. Here Christ and Sophia appear as brother and sister, with Christ representing the higher and Sophia the lower element. When this world had been born from Sophia, in consequence of her passion, 2 aeons, Nos and Althea, by command of the Father, produced 2 new eons, Christ and the Holy Ghost. These restore order in the... Yeah, I don't really think I need to go on. You can see this is very much a... It's really just kind of weird. We don't see any of this language really in the Bible. This very, I think, very obviously seems to be some sort of like later development. So the Gospels, the Gnostic Gospels, which are generally, this is some of it. It's very vague. What's a Gnostic Gospel? And these are kind of a list of when they were produced. As you can notice, they're all produced after the actual Bible was finished. There's still some were attributed to the apostles, and most of them were pretty obviously written to be Gnostic, kind of polemic pieces, and they just kind of inserted an apostle's name. So we have the Gospel of Thomas, which is 2nd century, the Gospel of Peter, which is 2nd century. By the way, this is after the people died, and this is not like the first copy. This is like when they were written, and this is fairly widely considered when they were written. We have the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Truth, the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Judas. The Gospel of James is not Gnostic, despite sometimes being lumped in with them, and is considered to be on some value. We do get some interesting doctrines from the Gospel of James. I don't really have time to get into that now. Okay, so this is the criteria that went into the development of the New Testament canon, which I talked about in my development of New Testament canon. So these were the 6 criteria that had to be in existence. First, it had to be written by an apostle. That means it couldn't be written after the person was dead. That seems pretty straightforward. It had to be read aloud in weekly assemblies. That is, the Gospels were widely read aloud. In church today, we still read passages from them aloud every week. They had to be consistent and not self-contradictory, which is a problem a lot of these had. They had to reinforce and reflect orthodoxy and tradition. That is, if we had just this kind of strange stuff like the whole thing about aeons, which is not mentioned anywhere in either either halves of the Bible, it's just like, what's the point? Had to be consistent. Yeah, it's so different from what everybody else said. Everyone just kind of read and they're like, this clearly isn't related. They had to be written before the 2nd century. The deciding factor as to what was considered and accepted was how prominent it was, and how widely it was read. So the Gnostic Gospels failed all of these tests. They weren't even really debated. So this is St. Irenaeus on Gnosticism. He wrote a 5-volume book attacking Gnosticism called On the Detection and of the So-Called Gnosis. Until the discovery of the Library of Nag Hammadi in 1945, Against Heresies was the best surviving contemporary description of Gnosticism. He specifically attacked and rejected the Gospel of Judas. Now here's the question: if this was all like covered up, why would he write a book like debating and attacking it? Wouldn't he just have burned the copies and not responded to it? I don't know. The central point of Irenaeus' theology is that the unity and goodness of God, in opposition to the Gnostics' theory of God, a number of divine emanations, aka aeons, along with the distinction between the monad and the demiurge. I don't know, none of this really sounds like anything from the Old Testament. Irenaeus' emphasis on the unity of God is reflected by his corresponding emphasis on the unity of salvation history. Irenaeus repeatedly insists that God began the world and has been overseeing it ever since this creative act. Everything that has happened is part of his plan for humanity. The essence of this plan is a progress of maturation. Irenaeus believes that humanity was created immature, and God intended his creatures to take a long time to grow or assume the divine likeness. Thus Adam and Eve were created as children. Their fall was not a full-blown rebellion, but rather a childish spat, a desire to grow up before their time and have everything with immediacy. So how is this against Gnosticism? Because Gnosticism says the Creator God is evil and our presence on this world is a bad thing, which Irenaeus pretty effectively attacks. So we have a number of other writers who specifically mention Gnosticism and attack it. We have St. Justin Martyr, who wrote Anti-Gnostic Treatise on the Resurrection and Condemnation against Marcion. We have Tertullian, who wrote Against the Valentinians. We have Hippolytus, who wrote Refutation of All Heresies. Ephrem the Syrian, who also wrote, and Augustine, who was an ex-Gnostic, and St. John Chrysostom also wrote against it. So we're just going to look at a couple of the different Gospels, Gnostic Gospels, just take a couple quotes. This is not meant to be exhaustive. This is just to kind of show what these Gospels are like. Because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of things people will say about them. I'm just trying to show like what it actually comes down to. So the Gospel of Thomas is not actually a gospel. This is one of the Gospels of Thomas. There's multiples. It's really confusing. It's not a gospel. It's just a collection of 114 sayings, to be exact, many of which are really, really weird. They purport that these are the secret sayings of Jesus, which he spoke and which Thomas wrote down. So these are like he took him aside and he told him all of this, and the story is framed as Jesus just rattling on 114 sayings. I would just like to reiterate, the high priest then questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching, and Christ answered him, I have spoken openly to the world. I spoke nothing in secret. So we kind of have a problem right there. So these are not out of context. The gospel is literally just quotes. So Simon Peter said to them, make Mary leave us, for females don't deserve life. Jesus said, look, I will guide her to make her male, so that she too may become a living spirit, resembling you males. For every female who makes herself male will enter the kingdom of heaven. And that is the last quote in the Gospel of Thomas. Some other strangeness we have is, blessed is the lion that a person will eat, and the lion will become human. I have no idea what that means. That is just literally, that's the whole quote. There's no context. Because nothing in this book has context. It's just a list of quotes. Just with reference to that one about women, we're always taught Gnosticism's like feminist or something. And females do not deserve life. And then we have another quote from Gospel of Thomas, once again about women. When you make the two into one, and when you make the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, and what is above like what is below, and when you make male and female into a single one, so that the male will not be male, nor the female be female. When you make a pair of eyes in place of one eye, a hand in place of a hand, a foot in a place of a foot, an image in place of an image, then you will enter the kingdom. That's just another bizarre quote. I don't even know what that means. And once again, that's not me taking out of context. That's the whole saying. Then we have the infancy gospel of Thomas, which is the one that's actually like a real gospel. And this kind of portrays Jesus as being some kind of serial killer. It's actually pretty funny. So let's just go through this. So, it's from the Gospel of Thomas. A neighbor messed up the brook. This is about Jesus' childhood, by the way. That he was supernaturally playing in. So I forget what was happening. I think Jesus was like running on the water, or he was like making waterfalls or something. I forget what happened exactly, but Jesus got mad at his neighbor because he's like, "Get out of that brook, you little brat." And Jesus cursed him, saying, "Thou shalt be withered like a tree, and shalt not bear leaves, neither root nor fruit." And straightway that lad withered up wholly, and died. Another boy bumps into him, and Jesus kills him. He just uses his God powers to kill him. When the parents got mad at Jesus for, murdering their child, he cursed them with blindness. Joseph tried to discipline him, and Jesus said, "Vex me not, parents, keep your kids away from this gospel." Jesus said, "Vex me not." So Joseph was like, "Dude, you can't just keep killing people. That's not very nice." And Jesus was like, "No, I will kill whoever I wish." Keep in mind, these are the gospels that are supposed to show that the real Jesus. That's what we're always told, that this is the compassionate, just man. I don't recall him doing anything like this in the New Testament. So Jesus does eventually decide to bring back all the people he killed, thinking that they've learned their lesson. So let's see here. Now let these bear fruit that were barren, and let them see that they were blind in heart. I am come from above, that I may curse them, and call them to things that are above, even as he commanded, which he sent me for your sakes. And the young child ceased speaking, immediately calling all who had been made whole, which had come under his curse. But lest you think this is a happy redemptive ending, check out the kicker. And no man after this durst provoke him, lest he should curse him and he should be made maimed. So that's nice. Then we have the Gospel of Peter, which is also referenced, where we have a talking cross and a giant Jesus. No, I'm not making that up. But in the night in which the Lord's day dawned, when the soldiers were safeguarding it 2 by 2 in every watch, there was a loud voice in heaven. And they saw that the heavens were opened, and that 2 males who had much radiance had come down from there, and come near the sepulchre. But that stone which had been thrust against the door, having rolled by itself, went a distance off the side. The sepulchre opened, and both young men entered. And so these soldiers, having seen, awakened the centurion and the elders, for they too were present safeguarding. So apparently all like the Jewish, like the entire Sanhedrin was like there, like sleeping outside of Jesus' tomb. And while they were relating what they had seen, again they see 3 males who have come out from thy sepulchre, with the 2 supporting the other one, and a cross following them. So the cross is like floating behind them. And the head of the 2 reaching up into heaven, so they became giants. But one of them being led out by a hand, by them going beyond the heavens. Okay, so Jesus was so tall, his head was in the stratosphere. And they were hearing a voice from the heavens saying, "Have you made a proclamation to the fallen asleep?" And an obeisance was heard from the cross, "Yes." So we have a flying, talking cross, and we have Jesus like with his head to the moon. Then we have the Gospel of Judas. So this is some other weird shit. First, the text says that Jesus was closer to Judas than any other disciple, and that he gave Judas some secret insider information onto the nature of the universe. "Stay away from the others, and I shall tell you the mysteries of the kingdom." What was that about? I have not said anything in secret. So yeah, we have that thing about the secret teachings. Jesus then proceeds to initiate Jesus into an elaborate cosmology that recounts the gradual unfolding of the spiritual universe, beginning with the self-generated being, probably the divine offspring of the Great One and Barbello, whoever Barbello is, who conceived the divine self-generated. This is from the Secret Book of John. From the later proceeds many ranks of angels or spiritual beings in heavenly spheres. Two of the angels rebel, Nebro and Saklas. They generate other angels as well as Adam and Eve. This is quite similar to the teachings of another pseudo-Christian religious ancient text, the letter of Peter to Philip, where the creator of the world is the arrogant one. So as a conclusion, Gnosticism is at best a parallel development to Christianity that used some aspects of it. It is at worst a breakaway sect. Needless to say, it's extremely different from Orthodox Christianity, and it's fairly clear that Christianity didn't crib for it, or we'd have kind of the weird stuff we've seen earlier. A lot of the Gnostic Gospels are really weird and don't really fit in with the New Testament because they were simply written too late to be seriously considered. All the early church fathers rejected Gnosticism. No one supported it from the beginning, and it wasn't something they came up with later on. So that, I think, should deal with the Gnostic question. Talk to you guys later.